So, do you not now see, quoting him, and understand the bridal, the friends of the bridegroom purpose in which I function? The bride was to have been made ready and make herself ready in the time period in which John lived, unto the Lord, for the Lord. That readiness and fullness was eventually, he said, rejected and forgotten. However, the day of the Lord is upon you now. For the bride will be made ready and make herself ready in our time. He went on. And for those world leaders and false church leaders, know this. You who refuse to fully embrace him as the lamb, you will now be embraced by him as the lion. You broken cisterns, you false sources, you guilty shepherds, you shall be paid back wrath for your wicked hearts. The Lord shall lay the axe to the roots, to your roots, he said, speaking to the leaders, and you shall be cut down and swept away. I wish he could have been a little stronger, but that's a joke. I know, I can feel it, even in this recording, how intense. It was really intense towards me, what he was saying. So that John the Baptist was very clear, and what should have been in his time was not because of rejection, including what we call the first century church, and eventually rejection of the ministry of divine authority of John, but also of the apostles and prophets of that day. All of that is true and is historically and biblically accurate. Anyway, let's go on. Let's look at another Old Testament saint who was in that council meeting, Isaiah. And we're going to look at, for Isaiah, what will be the fulfillment of many of, in fact, these are just a few that he spoke about, of the prophecies that God gave to him looking into the future to this time that are going to come to pass in our time. And so I want to, again, explain with these ones who are in the council, most of what they were doing was speaking to what they had been told and was written in many instances. We're dealing with Isaiah. What was written about Enoch, what's been written about John the Baptist, and those who wrote books such as Isaiah and others that are in this, or Psalms or other things, as to our living in the time of fulfillment, when the glory of the Lord is coming among his people and the nations, and that it is the glory of the Lord that will be the great judgment before his return. Will be fire set in the house of God, and the glory of the Lord will be fire set in the nations. That'll become more clear as we look at this. So we're going to look then at the book of Isaiah and what Isaiah, the glory of the Lord, this was said to me, the glory of the Lord among those who claim his name shall be as a judgment, a refinement, a purging fire, Isaiah said. And the glory of man, he said, shall be brought down to dust. There is the divine confrontation of the Lord of glory, the glory of the Lord, with the false glory of man. And it will be, it has been in history, But there is a final time before his return, and we're in it. May God help our hearts to understand it, the time in which we live. So I'm going to look then at some of the passages in Isaiah and go through this. Isaiah chapter 6, we're very familiar with it, but the glory of the Lord is revealed, the person of the Lord is revealed to Isaiah in chapter 6. In the year that King Uzziah died, or his death, I saw the Lord sitting on the throne, the Lord in glory, lofty and exalted, because he is, with the train of his robe filling the temple. Seraphim stood above him, each having 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. That covering their face, covering their feet is a sign that they, in the presence of such glory, must be covered. What does that mean for us? And Christ being our covering, that the glory of the Lord is wonderful and awesome and deadly. It's a fire. And the Lord's coming among his people now in glory. This was made very clear to me in the council. Great judgment of God among his people, like the shepherd that he is. The 7 stars in his right hand, the shepherd's rod in his left. And the activity of the Lord of glory among his people, that of for those who love him, those who want him, it will be beautiful, wonderful, the glory of the Lord that we have desired and wanted in levels that we have never experienced before. In fact, let me say this to you, no one has. There have been, of course there has been, the glory of the Lord in the past. Biblically speaking, you can read about it. But in this final time, it will be the greatest arising, just to quote Isaiah, of the glory of the Lord that this world has ever witnessed, beyond the Lord who was veiled himself upon this earth. I want to say, the glory of the Lord as lamb and lion, both, coinciding simultaneously. Verse 3, and one called out to another and said, holy, 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 again. It is the holiness, the glory of the Lord that has the seraphim covered, their faces covered, right? You're going to read about it again. I want us to see that clearly. Their faces were covered, their feet were covered. In the glory of the Lord, Moses was told, take your sandals off. The place where you stand is holy, holy ground. The glory of the Lord affects everyone, no matter what kind of being you are. Seraphim, cherubim, does not matter. Human, as we're about to see. The whole earth, says, is full of his glory. The foundations of the threshold trembled at the voice of him who called out, while the temple was filling with smoke. Then I said, woe is me, for I am ruined. I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. For my eyes has seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Beholding him in his glory, being in the glorious presence of the Lord himself, affects Isaiah. It's meant to affect Isaiah as the Lord aims to affect me, in a positive way of possessing me and of me being fully his and yielded completely to him and being impacted by who he is in his greatness. Yes, I will see in that my unworthiness, my smallness, but I'll see him, and I will see in him hope, and I will see in him his will and his purpose and his desire. But you must be broken. We must come under the shepherd's rod. That is a humbling of us. It's meant to be. Leaders, please hear what is being said. We must lead the way there as well. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a burning coal in his hand, which he had taken from the altar with tongues, and he touched my mouth with it and said, Behold, this has touched your lips, and your iniquity has been taken away, and your sin is forgiven. Don't have time to get into the distinction between iniquity and sin, but it's here. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? Then I said, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go and tell this people. Tell them what? This word is coming to us again now. The word of Isaiah coming to fulfillment in our time. Keep on listening, but do not perceive. Keep on looking, but do not understand. Render the hearts of this people insensitive, their ears dull, and their eyes dim, lest they see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and return and be healed. Then I said, Lord, how long? How long is that to go on? Is his question. And he answered, until cities are devastated and without inhabitant, houses are without people, and the land is utterly desolate. And the Lord has removed men far away, and the forsaken places are many in the midst of the land. Yet there will be a 10th portion in it. And it will again be subject to burning. And like the terebinth or an oak, whose stump remains when it is felled, the holy seed is its stump. So those who are God's people will be left like a stump, but the rest of the tree will be cut down and burned. But that's a principle. It was speaking to that time, but the principle of it in God's movements hold true to the very end, to his coming. God does not change. Anyway, let's move forward. Isaiah then, chapter